Hey everybody. So yesterday, man, that was a mega uh video. Sorry it took so long. There's just some pretty significant changes, especially around the TypeScript and things like that. And this is a very critical time. A lot to think about. And then for me, I'm sort of, I don't know what the right word is, hindered, handicapped, weighed down by sort of habits that I kind of picked up when I used to be an enterprise developer that worked with a lot of other people. Because there's like a lot of things that when you're working with other people you really have to think about. And then maybe when you're not working with other people it might make more sense to not let it kind of hold you up. But anyways, so I got the animations working for the lights, and I'm very very happy with that. Basically, I have a light that's just sort of rotating across. Yeah, just a quick rundown of what we got. Let me see. Show raw data. Oop, I'm gonna have to fix that bug. It looks like. So I have one light. It starts at -16. It ends at 16. It has a Z position of 1, so it's 1 towards us, and it's rotating across, kind of like one of those like point. I don't know what they're called, but a light thing that kind of comes across. You see them in like old World War II movies when the or prison movies where people are trying to escape and the lights coming across. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Anyways, in our meshes we got quite a bit going on. Um, let's close this down. Go to raw data view. Basically, we have a red, a white, and a blue. The red's sitting at -3 on the X. Everybody's at 0. The white's at 1 and all that. And then we have a wall behind so that I can have a shadow. And that's about it on that. Nothing is animated, but those were animated at one time. That's why they're kind of askew, which I think is cool. Let me see. So I'm going to just pause this and just kind of rotate through. So that's sort of how um, it looks at different time periods. And you can see the shadows kind of showing up. And you can see, you can't even see the white one because the shadow from the red one is showing. And you can't tell what the color of the red one is, but you can barely tell what the color of the blue one is. I think that's really, really cool. So that's about that. That's how that works. Let's see. Let's make it up looping at 16 seconds and unpause it so we have a nice slow loop. Uh, so not a lot of code. It was pretty much what I predicted yesterday. I did two things. One is I updated the interface name because, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, property was not that is not the type. It's a type of object. And so basically coming soon would be colon, and camera, and then and scene. And that's going to be cool when we have that. Uh, that's awesome. But lights and mesh is working perfectly now, and I'm really really happy with it. It did trigger a bunch of changes because when I named that, it changed things. I believe all it changed here, which I'm a little bit confused about, was just the imports because I was importing things that I wasn't using. I guess I just wasn't even using them, but they didn't exist anymore. So that was a fix. I believe I have extra space there. No, I don't. And then in here, I actually just had to change the type names, and that's super simple. When I changed the interface, all the compiler just broke and it showed me exactly what to change and where to change it, which is nice. Um, so in this animated item, so no, we already did that. Uh, we already did that. We already did that. So really, everything was the actual coding was all in the service, uh, and this animation callback is, basically as I mentioned, we had to do a looping over lights. Now, obviously, like if you're, I don't know how in touch you are with the code, but if you're in touch with the code, there's a new thing called pairs, animated pairs, and it probably makes more sense to loop over everything that's just animated. There's no reason to do this search to see if something's animated or not animated if it's in the pairs list. And this is the fun part where people get really confused over time because like temporal issues, because they'll be like, why didn't you always use pairs? And it's like, well, yeah, because pairs didn't exist when we wrote this code. The pairs array didn't exist, and that's always very confusing. But anyway, so I added a new light sections, and then I added new light functions, and I went back and forth just like I mentioned I would be, on whether I should just like combine these and try to do everything. And I ended up settling on, okay, so my instincts said, no, don't change that. For the love of God, do not change that. And the reason, I think I had to really examine myself. And I think the reason is because when you're working in teams and things like that, there's probably other developers would have been assigned things that they might be making changes in here. And if you combine all that into one, you just blasted, you just destroyed all their changes. There won't be a really good way in Git to capture the fact that whatever their changes were, because you just literally wiped out the whole foundation of what they were working on. That's not an issue for me because I'm the only one working on this. But I did think to myself, actually, this would be a very good way. See, these could be combined. These are similar enough that they could be combined. Like this could absolutely be combined into one type. But is camera going to be the same? Is scene going to be the same? And if they aren't, then I really need to think through, should they be the same? And so this would take away an opportunity for me to sort of do a deeper architectural analysis of if they are the same and if they're not the same, if the new objects that we're going to do down the road, or if they're not the same. And then in this guy, we're doing an analysis of, okay, let's make let's make changes based on time specifically for lights. And should that be done specifically for lights, or should the mesh work too? And right now, I think uh, for lights and meshes, they would work. You should be able to figure out some way to be able to combine these into one function and add just probably just a little bit of complexity to make that happen, and have a huge benefit of having a lot less code and less code duplication. But again, this is a really nice way when we do camera and when we do scene, or when I do camera and I do scene, if it's a really nice way to make sure that to have a simple place to look and see what the deltas are, what is different between the way you do a scene and a light and a camera and a mesh. So I chose to leave it the same. I definitely can see all sides of the argument here, and I think there's a lot to be said for combining these two right now, but I think there's a lot more to be said for combining them after they're together. I'm a little worried when camera comes and when I do camera and scene that I have inadvertently um, painted myself into a corner that's going to make this thing maybe impossible to be used for future, like for the beta. And I would rather use this as the beta so I don't have to start from scratch again, because that's gonna suck if I have to start from scratch again. So, anyways, those are sort of the thought processes I'm going through as I'm updating these things. I do think this is super duper awesome. The ability, this moving light thing. One thing I was a bit disappointed on is I was kind of hoping to make something that kind of looks like a firefly moving across here, and that's not working. But I have a feeling that has to do with the scenes and maybe creating like a fog or something like that. Because I know in 3JS a scene can, I believe it can have a fog, and I bet you if I have a fog and then I have a point light moving through, it would have that firefly look. Um, but anyways, that is it, and it looks like this is under 10 minutes. So thanks and happy coding, everybody. Bye.